Okay, so we are on a mission to reclaim our time and focus. And I thought of a new challenge that can do just that. It's a challenge where I basically stop using my phone as much as I do right now. So at the current moment, I'm actually going to screen record this so you can see the statistics on screen time. At the current moment, I am spending about, it says, a daily average of, let me see, all activity, 4 hours and 42 minutes for last week, 4 hours and 41 minutes the week before that, 4 hours and 15 minutes the week before that one, and it pretty much stops from there. So I have statistics of the past 3 weeks, which is good enough. It averages to about maybe like 4 hours and 30 minutes. And the goal is to essentially bring that down to about an hour. I don't know if an hour is even practical, but an hour it just sounds like a good number. So that is going to be the goal for the next 30 days. I just finished a 30-day challenge where it's quiet meals and I eat without being on my phone or anything like that. So that probably also helped with reducing this already. It probably used to be closer to 5 hours or so. But as a fun thing to look at as well is not just the number of hours I'm spending on my phone, but what I'm spending it on. So it looks like the most used is Messenger. It's because I message my friends a lot, just talking to them, and yeah, that's basically it. And messages I also use quite a bit. YouTube I seem to use quite a bit as well, mainly because I sometimes listen to like podcasts on YouTube, so it's just like sort of there and I'm listening. So that's something to keep in mind. Duolingo was something I used a lot as well for the first week and second week and somewhat the third week, about 2 hours to 3 hours in average. And I'd say it's mainly because I've been trying to advance to the next league every time for Duolingo. If you've ever tried it, it's like learning languages. But I can definitely not do that as much and just focus on like 15 minutes of actually learning new stuff. I'll probably make a video about that eventually. Maps, I don't count. Maps should not be counted in my opinion. And then OfferUp, that's like completely. That's not usually. I don't usually spend that much time on it. It's just because I was like uploading a lot of stuff onto it. And then Chrome, just like random searches and stuff like that. Yeah, so those are the things I use the most. Messenger is definitely the top one, and YouTube. Messenger, YouTube, and messages are consistently the top. So those are the ones that I'm gonna look out for and try not to use as much for the next 30 days. Of course, yesterday I'm not counting it. Yesterday was Sunday. Um, let's go ahead and end this right now. Hey Siri, what day is it today?
It's Monday, August 22nd, 2022.
Okay, there you go. That's what the date is, and I'm gonna just keep going from here, trying to spend less time on my phone. I think initially I'm gonna just gradually slow down and not instantly get to 1 hour. So it might be more practical for it to be like closer to 2 hours. Even if I get 2 hours, that's like pretty good. That's like half the amount of time I've been spending on my phone for the past month or so. So that is essentially the challenge for the next 30 days after this quiet meals one. I haven't quite finished the quiet meals one. I'm on day 26, so 4 more days. But for the most part, it's been pretty successful. I didn't fail any meal except for one, which we'll talk about in that video. But that is going to be the introduction to this challenge, and let's see how things go. I'll track it probably weekly because that's when the screen time, like I can look at the statistics and we can go over it and everything like that. So the main goal out of this is just to reclaim my focus and time. That's basically it. I am also going to look out for any adverse effects because for sure I like messaging my friends and I like staying in contact with them and having good chats even though it's just through texting. So let's see what happens if I don't get that as much. Hopefully, I mean, I'll probably inform my friends as well to let them know, just in case I'm not answering as much. I mean, we'll see. We'll see if they notice. But that is going to be the introduction to this challenge. Let's see how things go. Okay, it's the exact same day. I just forgot to mention certain things since this is unscripted. Number one, I wanted to talk about the rules of this challenge. It's mainly just for my phone, so I could still, it's not going to count the time on my laptop, which is what I use to edit and all that stuff. And it's not going to count the time on my iPad, which I sometimes use as like a second monitor when I edit and all that stuff, as well as, yeah, the iPad's just kind of used for random stuff sometimes, even for Duolingo. So it's definitely not going to be super strict because, you know, I can just message my friends on my laptop or iPad instead. But the idea isn't to just transfer me doing those things on my phone usually to those other devices. It's overall just to save time. Like, I'll keep that goal in mind, and I'm not gonna like cheat this challenge. The whole point of the challenge is to reclaim time and focus. So that's just something to note. Those are the rules. It's just mainly reducing the time on my phone, and I'm not gonna like actively try to, I guess, cheat. So another thing as well is on my phone, my strategy, something I wanted to mention is gonna be I'll only sort of pick up my phone during certain hours of the day. Of course, my phone is usually left on silent, so I have been picking it up more than usual in the past few months than I usually do. That's mainly because, again, me messaging my friends, it's like a nice like dopamine hit every time I get a message from them and I get to like respond and everything. But this time I'm gonna try to make it so that I only pick up my phone sometime like an hour after I wake up, around noontime, around 3 p.m. and around 6 p.m. And finally around like maybe right before I sleep around like 9:30-ish, and then I sleep around sometime between 10 to 11. So that is going to be the strategy. I'm not entirely sure I can keep that up. I know sometimes like messages and phone calls might be a bit more urgent as well, so I might just glance at my phone occasionally. So it's not like a hard set rule or strategy. It's just something to start off with to reduce the time. And that is, I think, hopefully everything I wanted to mention for this introduction video. Let's go ahead and try this thing. Okay, so the challenge that I created earlier this week, which was Monday, August 22nd, I think, that is the phone challenge where I wanted to reduce the amount of time I've been on my phone from about like an average of 4 hours to somewhere around under 1 hour. That was the goal at first, and that was the challenge for that 30-day period. So it's almost been, not really, it's like been 5 days, so not really a full week yet, but I feel like this challenge is slightly, it feels off to me, and I want to change it. The thing that I was thinking about earlier today was the previous days where I've been doing this challenge, I've been using my phone for like messaging people for work related things like freelance stuff and just things that I need to use my phone for. I mean, I could do it on my laptop, but I feel like it shouldn't be, I shouldn't be like using my laptop because I don't want to use my phone because of this challenge, because that just makes things inconvenient. And that's not the point of the challenge. The point of the challenge is so that I'm spending less time on my phone in a way that like helps me gain something, not makes it harder for me to do things and makes it more inconvenient. That is not the point of the challenge. So I'm starting to think that the whole time thing, the whole time aspect is a waste of time to try to attempt. It's it runs counter and it runs counter to the thing that I want, and it misses the point of why I would want to do it in the first place. So the new challenge that I thought of is to avoid any mindless pickups of the phone, or mindless browsing, or mindless usage of the phone. So anytime I'm using the phone with intention to basically like, oh, this is for work or this is for research, I need to look up this tutorial to fix this issue that I'm having, or I need to learn something on my phone, then those things are fine. And even if it's just messaging a friend, like that's fine too. I feel like my original thing where I was like, oh, I shouldn't be on my phone as much, messaging my friends, whatever, stuff like that. I think that is sort of a thought that came out of the misdirection of screen time's sort of statistics. Like, oh, I've been on Messenger for an hour as a daily average. That's really bad. Not really. Not if I'm like having good conversations with my friends and feeling like connected with them and whatnot. I feel like that is actually a good thing. Like, I shouldn't be looking at this certain statistic, and being like, oh, I'm spending way too much time on my phone, on this app, doing this thing that I actually like and that I feel helps me, like mentally and emotionally. That seems so weird. Like, I feel like just looking at that statistic alone can lead you to think those things, and it led me to think that, and I feel like that's wrong. So that's why throughout these past 5 days, I've just been feeling like, oh, this is weird. This challenge feels off. It's not like the quiet meals challenge where most of it is just pure benefit, like pure pros. The only downside is that I wasn't like watching as much TV and movies and reading as much, but I still gained a lot of time and focus. That felt good. Like doing that challenge, it was somewhat difficult at times, but it felt good overall. This challenge so far has been just making me feel like I just need to be off my phone, even though like being on my phone has benefits, in terms of like me messaging my friends for Messenger and me using it to like for work stuff, for convenience, for things that I actually need it for. So that's why I'm going to change up the rules of this challenge and make it no mindless pickups, which basically means every time, like, I've had a lot of instances where I'm just using my phone and I'm not paying attention to what I really want to do on it. It's sort of just like me looking at it, and not doing any. Sometimes I just don't do anything. It's just like me looking at the home screen, or me checking if I got notifications or something like that, and putting it back down. And then like, I guess that's intentional in some ways, but that's still partly mindless because like I'm looking for something to distract myself with, instead of me like, oh, I need to look up this tutorial, pick it up, go on YouTube, type it in search, watch the video, I'm good, put it back down. Like that is intentional. And that's when I realized this, like I'm thinking about why I felt so off, and I'm like, this is way better. Like this challenge makes way more sense. So if I were to pick it up once mindlessly, or browse my phone mindlessly once, even just once in the day, that is breaking the challenge. That is losing the day. So that's the new challenge. I think I'm gonna keep it going from here, in terms of like, I already did this 5 days and I failed 5 times. I think I'm just gonna do that because I don't want it to seem like, I want this to be a challenge that evolves. So I want this to be sort of like a less of a let's reset and start this challenge over again, and more of a, this challenge started this way, and this is the journey of how it developed and evolved, and why it evolved that way. I think it makes for a much more interesting story, a much more interesting journey, to call this 30-day challenge like one thing, which is like the phone challenge or something, and seeing how it grows. I think this is the right move. It feels right. So we'll see what happens from here, but I'm also going to start doing a daily log dedicated to the challenge. I didn't do that for quiet meals, but the quiet meals was also like my first sort of 30-day habit challenge this year. So it makes sense that the habit challenges are developing and changing and becoming more interesting, for me at least. And so that's pretty much the report for, I guess, week 1. It's kind of early, but I wanted to do this as soon as I thought of it. I literally thought of changing it this morning, or I made the epiphany that this makes way more sense, to call it like, to change it from being focused to amount of like screen time usage to mindless pickups. So I'll still do the whole like, this is how much time I spent on my phone this week, average daily, but it won't be the focus. Like if I need to use my phone, I'm just gonna use it. Like I'm not gonna let this challenge. I'm not gonna create a challenge where it makes it hard for me to use my phone, for something that's intentional and useful. So, okay, before I don't want to keep repeating myself. So that's basically the change, and let's see how things go. Okay, this is why I ramble on, because I wanted to say more. Okay, so the mindless pickup thing, I think this happened when I was importing the footage that I just recorded. So I actually mindlessly picked up my phone once, or like having it near me, I just like pick it up, looked at it, or like was about to look at it, and then I just put it back down. I was like, oh my god, this is gonna be way harder than I'm thinking it will be. So instead of just saying one pickup, I failed the day, let's make this a bit more interesting and count the amount of times I mindlessly pick up my phone or mindlessly use my phone. I think that's gonna actually be way more interesting. So today I'm gonna track, I think today so far, I've mindlessly used my phone once, like after researching a tutorial on like, because I'm trying to sell my old camera on the shutter count. After researching it and finishing that stuff, and then also researching other things, I just like stared at my phone for a little bit and didn't really do anything on it. Just swiped left and right a little bit. So that was a mindless use. That was once. Maybe I should separate them. Let's separate them. That makes it more interesting as well. So mindless pickups, mindless use. Those two things, I'll be tracking them, seeing how well I do. And hopefully by the end of this challenge, by the end of, it's been 5 days, so 22 days, not 22, sorry, I can't do math right now, 25 days. After 25 days of doing this, let's see where the statistics go. Hopefully it goes from, I have no clue how many mindless pickups I do. They're called mindless for a reason, but I'm gonna be aware of them now and count them today. And hopefully it goes from, let's say, I do it 20 times a day. Screen time actually might have a statistic on that, so maybe, just maybe, let's see. Pickups. It has a pickup, which is really cool. But again, this is total pickups. So it's like for alarm stuff, for intentional stuff. So it's not a good statistic necessarily, but if this number should still decrease, if we're going from like mindless pickups to intentional pickups. So let's see, yesterday, Thursday, was 80 pickups. Then Wednesday was 66, Tuesday was 65, Monday was 37, Sunday before that was 60. And then last week on Friday was 99, 88, 70. Okay, so I think it's way better to go with the statistics from the previous weeks, 100. And I'm seeing that the average is probably close to 80-ish, I'd say. 70 to 80 basically. And this week has definitely been a lot lower than that, just because I've been trying to not be on my phone as much. So this was an intentional pickup. And I almost did a mindless browse right there. Like I started to look at other things on my phone. It's so funny how like I'm starting to notice these things a lot more once like the challenge begins. I guess that's in the spirit of like quiet meals because like you sort of take that for granted. Like you just do stuff while eating, and you sort of take your phone usage for granted as well. So this feels so much better, and let's actually do it. So let's hope. I'm hoping to go from that average of 80 something from the previous month to something around maybe I don't know 30 pickups, and then hopefully zero mindless pickups within 25 days. We'll see how that works. I feel like for the my now that I have like a previous habit challenge that I've finished, I can actually use it as a comparison for how these things feel. Obviously, it's different, like a different task, but it's still like breaking like a habit that I'm used to and completely changing it. So when I went from like watching movies and reading while eating, and then doing completely nothing while eating for 30 days, this is actually the 30-day mark for the Quiet Meals Challenge. Yesterday was the 30-day mark. I'm done with it now, but I'm gonna keep it up. So at least for weekdays. So the feeling from going from me back then to me now is very, very, very different. So I'm hoping that this is also gonna like elevate that feeling even more of just being aware of what I'm doing. So let's go ahead and do this. Let's write down every time I mindlessly pick up and use my phone. That's going to be very interesting to do for 25 days. But I'm hoping to keep it up afterwards and basically create a lifelong habit of intentional use for my phone. Okay. What day is it today?
It's Tuesday, September 6th, 2022.
We are right about at the midpoint of the 30-day challenge, which is the phone challenge. It's changed from observing screen time, how much, trying to minimize that to like somewhere around 1 hour. It's changed from that to now doing my best to not mindlessly pick up my phone and not mindlessly use my phone, as well as another addition that I did recently, which is to track notifications or how many times I look at notifications. Because what's happened is I'm not mindlessly using my phone anymore that much at all, which is really good. Like the first week I paid attention to that, it's been the way I think about the thoughts that happen before I pick up my phone always are like, let's do this with my phone. But then it sort of transformed into let's check notifications with my phone quite often. Like let's check notifications and just deal with it. Not deal with it, but just like go through each of them and sort it through, I guess. Clean it up, basically, clear it up. And that is an issue because instead of mindlessly using my phone, I'm sort of just using a hack that's like defeating the purpose of the thing in the first place, I guess, which is to not use my phone as much if I don't have to. So oftentimes I would just see my phone and be, let's check notifications, check it, and then go through all of them. Sometimes there isn't any, so it's like, it's still not as bad as like mindlessly picking it up and checking, but like at the same time, it's still the same thing. So what I'm trying to do is minimize it to no more than 10 checks a day. Probably that number should be a little bit lower, but again, it's hard because like my work stuff is sometimes related to my phone, so I need to check it, and yeah, that complicates things. So perhaps I should just not check like work stuff, or not count it as a notification check if it's for work stuff and whatnot. Same thing with friends. Like whenever I hang out with them, like I need to check the notifications, otherwise they're gonna not know what I'm doing, like not gonna get any updates from me, especially if they're coming to my place. And that's kind of like, I don't want that for them to be worried that I forgot or something like that. So that's another thing that is like an exception. So there's like a lot of exceptions basically that I'm starting to figure out, that this challenge is not really like structured around. And it's sort of like me trying my best to figure out like what is the best method while still retaining like the spirit of this challenge. The best method to approach it with the whole exceptions and everything while still gaining what I want. And for me right now, I'm determined to stick with this challenge, and it's also been, even though it's been like really hard to do it, like I'd say compared to the quiet meals challenge, which went very very smoothly, the rules were not that unclear. They were like from the beginning, it was just like good. This one is like totally different, like the opposite. It's like we started it off, felt off about it, changed the rules, and we're continuously feeling like, and then now I just feel like I'm still failing it basically, because the past few days I've been going out a lot, so it's like I have not gotten the chance, or I guess I didn't keep track of the mindless pickups, mindless notifications, or even just how many times I looked at notifications very much at all. So it's like I feel like I'm failing the challenge because I'm not doing that. But at the same time, I don't want to be constantly like tracking those things, because it takes energy. Like if I were to do this continuously, like how I'm still doing the quiet meals thing, even after the 30 days have finished, I wouldn't want to do this. I wouldn't want to actually keep track of notifications and mindless pickups and mindless uses. It just feels like a waste of time. It seems counterproductive in the sense that I'm keeping track of this number that keeps going up, that like takes extra time to keep track of and everything like that. So I'm thinking about how to transform it into like a habit that allows me to not waste that energy, but at the same time it still fulfills the goal, which is to use my phone more mindfully, and also like to spend less time on it, less time that I don't need to spend on it. So it's gonna be a work in progress. This challenge is definitely very very different compared to the previous one, but again, I'm determined to follow through and not just like quit halfway through. Let's see. And I did mention early on that I would be tracking screen time and whatnot. I didn't really do that for the first week. So for this one, we might as well just do it for this week and the previous one. So let's see here. So the daily average so far for this week has been almost 3 hours. Let's look at the previous one. The one before that is 3 hours and 25 minutes. And then the one before that is 2 hours and 43 minutes. So compared to the consistent 4 hours before, it's definitely less usage, which is good. Sometimes, let's look at what's causing a good amount of it. So for the first week of the challenge, Messenger was 3 hours and 33 minutes total. That's to be expected. Duolingo was next, and then OfferUp was next, and then Maps was next. Those are like three things that honestly are sort of like I had to do it. I mean, Duolingo not so much, but like it's me practicing a language, so it's not like I'm wasting my time. But yeah, most of the things up here are pretty good. YouTube for an hour and 17 minutes, that's probably me just like watching whatever. And then the last week was a lot more Messenger. and messages. Those two, oh my god, like in combinations, like 7 hours versus the previous week, which was like 5 hours. Not a huge difference, I guess, but it's still a difference to note. And then I spent more time on YouTube watching stuff, and I was organizing a lot of things in photos and Instagram apparently. Um, I don't browse on Instagram, so most of this Instagram stuff must have been me like oh yeah, it was me doing my monthly post, um, like monthly highlights, where I find the photos that I want throughout the month and post them. For Instagram, I was just like trying to, um, I was struggling because I'm not used to it to post those 10 photos. One of them was a video, but yeah. Okay, uh, let's see. Let's go for pickups. So pickups last week was 70, and pickups the week before that was 68. And before that was 76. So honestly, the pickup amount is very similar, which is not ideal, I guess, since we should probably be picking up our phone less. But that's going to be good enough for today. Okay, that's just the update. I actually should be reading these out, um, because I've been writing about them more consistently. Like I said, the past 3 days, past 4 days actually, really. I didn't keep track of much. Then the previous one was like 5 mindless pickups, 5 mindless uses, and it's been sticking around those two numbers. But I noticed a lot of the logs basically say hard to keep track of this day because either I did a lot of things, hung out with friends, or just like it was just not convenient to like mark it down whenever I checked a notification or um, did mindless use or whatever. And I only started the notification thing on September 1st. So that's pretty recent. So for 6 days right now. Okay, I pretty much filled in. I pretty much gave the update of the challenge so far. Again, it's been tough. This one is like. It really is a challenge this time versus the quiet meals, which was very easy for me. This one, I'm gonna do my best to just transform mindless pickups and mindless use to zero all the time. I might just do the reverse and be like, okay, if um yeah, I never mind, not the reverse. It's just like I guess the way I think about it, it's like, oh, keep track of how many times I did a mindless pickup or mindless use, um, versus like, oh, let's just try not to do them at all. That's what I mean by reverse, I guess. So that will be the challenge from here on. Um, I guess it can just be pass or fail. I know that kind of sucks with the statistics, but like, I guess I can just keep track of it number wise still. But honestly, making it pass or fail might just help push me to not want to fail at all. So I think I can achieve it. So mindless use, mindless pickups, just don't do it at all. And then for notifications, try to keep it below 10. That's gonna be the new sort of challenge from here on. This is just how it's progressing. So yeah, sorry for the whole like sloppy update. I should have read that beforehand. I'm gonna do that next time. All right, for now, hopefully I can make this. I can shape up. Hopefully I can shape up and like make this a better overall challenge and end with success rather than so much struggle in the past 2 weeks. Okay, so here's a quick update on what's been going on for the phone challenge. I have definitely been very bad at this challenge so far. This past week has been quite the failure, I would say. I didn't even really write about it, so there's no point in checking it before talking. Basically, what's going on is the mindless use and the mindless pickups, I've no longer really kept track of them because I said, okay, let's just not do it at all. But then I have noticed myself doing the mindless use occasionally, and then I'm not even marking it anymore because my mind is going on like the whole notification thing where I wanted to pick it up or I wanted to check notifications only like a set number of times per day. I believe I said 10, and I did write down an optimized notification number, which would be around 6 or 7. I would check notifications at 10, 12, I think it was 3, 6, and then whatever. But either way, I'm doing way too much for this single challenge at once, and it's not helping at all in terms of getting me to where I want to be or improving any sort of habits that I have at the moment. I don't know. It's such a stark difference. The quiet meals challenge was just so simple yet so effective, and I'm trying to like replicate that with this challenge as well. But so far, it's just not gone anywhere. In in fact, I'm just stressing myself out more by doing this challenge. It's so far it's just been a really huge failure, I would say. I think my next step should be to simplify it. I'm doing too much and it's not helping, like I said. So let's simplify it to the point where it's like the Quiet Meals Challenge. It's just one thing that I can or cannot do. For the Quiet Meals Challenge, it was I cannot do anything but eat while I eat when I'm by myself. So for this one, I'm thinking the phone challenge can just be when I'm on my phone, like just don't mindlessly use it, and that's it. Like I guess I can also keep track of the mindless pickups since that's pretty easy. Like just don't mindlessly pick it up. I mean, that's been so far that's been pretty easy because like every time I look at my phone, it's like I think about this challenge, and like I said, it's been kind of stressing me out. But but yeah, it's like going backwards, unfortunately. But at the same time, the step that I tried to take, it was way too large, and I do need to take that step back in order to like stay at that spot and get used to it first because the mindless use thing has definitely crept back in. So I think for the rest of this challenge, I'm gonna extend it to erase last week because it was a total failure. So I'm gonna do an extra week, and still call it a 30-day challenge because like it's essentially me doing that challenge for 30 days versus me like trying the notification things for an extra 7 days. So yeah, mindless pickups and mindless use. We're gonna keep it to that. At first, the first time I thought of it, it felt good. It felt right. I was moving in the right direction. I still think it's the right thing to do, but adding on the notifications was definitely a big mistake, and that's basically the update. So I'm going to go back to that and just keep track of mindless use and mindless pickups and try to make that zero, just absolutely zero. Every time I'm on my phone, it's for a reason. Every time I'm picking up my phone, it's also for a reason. Even if it is to check notifications, I'm going to let myself use that shortcut. I'll try to avoid it, but I also won't penalize myself for it at the moment. That'll just be a separate challenge. Okay, that is the update. Yeah, I'm just gonna do this for 2 more weeks and see how it goes. So far, this challenge has just been a roller coaster. Let's hope from here it's just gonna go smoothly and we do zero mindless pickups and mindless uses. Peace. Test, 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 test. I just realized we have retainers on. Gotta take them off. So it's definitely been. Alright, so it's definitely been over 30 days since we started the whole phone challenge thing, with the first week being me trying not to use my phone as much, so lowering the screen time. And then we decided to change it because it didn't feel right, so we changed it to no mindless pickups or no mindless uses. And then that was a bit too difficult to do, and I changed it again. Well, it wasn't necessarily too difficult, more so it was like instead of mindlessly using my phone or mindlessly picking it up, I would always just have the action in my head or the purpose of checking notifications. So there was sort of a loophole that made it like not really work out. And then from there, we tried to get around, or we tried to manage that loophole by saying, okay, we can only do 10 notifications per day. But all of that became very chaotic and too hard to keep track of at a certain point. So I was just like, okay, I changed it again and I made it just don't look at your phone in the morning. And I've been doing that for about 2 weeks or so. And for the most part, it's been successful. But whenever there's an event going on during the day, close to the morning, I end up checking my phone because I feel like it's necessary to make sure everyone's informed. I'm informed that and everything runs smoothly for the event or the hangout or whatever. So that there's like so many exceptions that I've made where I broke the whole like don't look at your phone in the morning. So overall, I will say that this 30-day challenge, even though it's been over 30 days, it's closer to like 40 something days, it's been a failure. And I think that I still want to release like this compilation of logs of me talking about it in real time, just so you guys can sort of get a sense of where my mind was at during each point of the challenge. Because if I were to summarize it, then like I am right now, then I'd be skipping over a whole lot of details of like why I changed the challenges, how those ones specifically went during those weeks, and so on. So, so I think that it's a good idea to release all of it, but I do want to make a summary of just like talking about failure in general for habits, specifically like trying to get rid of a bad habit, because getting rid of a habit or like making a habit of not doing something or changing something you usually do to not doing it is very difficult. I'd say much more difficult than like forming a new habit where like the habit is to do something new, like flossing if you don't floss, or stretching before you sleep, meditating, stuff like that. Those are like habits where it's a new habit that you're forming versus a bad habit that you're trying to get rid of. So that's like a big difference between them. And so far for the habit challenges, the two that I've attempted, are bad habits that I'm getting rid of. The first one went really well. Like oddly, it was compared to this one, it was extremely easy and straightforward. This one was like a roller coaster of like me changing it constantly. I'm sure if I stuck with like the first thing, it would have been more successful, but at the same time, like I wanted to be effective in changing some aspect of my life to make it like a positive change. And I don't think like me not using my phone as much or lowering the screen time would necessarily translate to that, for reasons I've mentioned in the past. But yeah, that is pretty much the conclusion of this phone challenge. I think a key lesson that I've learned from this is like failure will happen. Like I'm not going to succeed every single habit challenge that I've made for myself. Otherwise, they wouldn't actually be true challenges. A challenge is supposed to be difficult. It's supposed to be something where I have to try hard and put energy into. Not all the time, but like it's like if I want to call it a challenge, if I want to push myself and improve it, there will be times where it is difficult. Some, I'm sure other habit challenges will be, like in the future, will be, not as difficult. Like not all of them will be, but this one certainly was. And for the most part, I think I've gained something out of it, like the knowledge of how to move forward better, and also like I will still try to avoid using my phone in the morning if I can. Like I think for the weekdays, if there's no event going on during the day, I will just like avoid it. But otherwise, weekends I'm just gonna not really care. I think weekends are gonna just be like a day, like the 2 days out of the week where I don't have to worry about, oh, I have to do quiet meals or I have to not check my phone. It's good to have exceptions. So yeah, that is basically the report and the conclusion to the phone challenge. I call it the phone challenge because it's literally like 3, 4 different challenges that I try to do within like 40 days. It was a failure, but it was a failure I learned a lot from. And it's time to move on because that's a big mistake I feel like I've done in the past, is like when you fail at like a habit challenge or like a habit that you're trying to form or a bad habit you're trying to get rid of, it's better to move on. Like move on to a new habit, or like don't worry about trying to stop that bad habit. Just like focus on something else, because it's much easier to, like when you're on a failing streak, it's really hard to get back up from it. Like it's much easier to just start anew and then come back to it down the line in the future sometime. Okay, that's it. I guess if you enjoyed the compilation, like and subscribe, but that's it.